the founders, in fact, the company still runs. In fact, it's co-located. Basically doing transfer printing for things like football shirts, and so high quality graphics and logos, sponsors logos that you see on sportswear. So what happened was probably about 5 years ago now, that the founders met up at a trade show, and they were approached by an expert in functional inks. So that is inks that conduct electricity or have got other functions. And he said, rather than just transferring these pretty pictures, how about making something really useful? And so that's what they did. They tried out various inks, and so out of that came effectively a new process. So and the story over the last couple of years is using that process with a particular product. So that product you can see there is the woman wearing the shorts with the in the center there. So those are smart shorts. As you can see, there's they connect to a little box of electronics. Those shorts are used to treat urinary incontinence, and so that is, that's a condition that affects about a third of women globally. So it's a really a big issue, and some men as well after certain operations. So the way that the product works is, you can see over on the right hand side of the slide, you can see the pair of shorts, and that's just them turned inside out. So basically what you've got there is actually silver electrodes. The large shiny surfaces are silver electrodes, and you can see white tracks run back to actually a black connector, and that comes out on the front of the garment that you can see in the middle of the image. So what happens is the little box of electronics generates electrical signals. They travel down the wires, down the tracks to the electrodes, and they stimulate the pelvic floor region. And so you wear those shorts for half an hour, a few times a week over 12 weeks. That treats the condition, and it works. It's FDA approved, CE approved. So we've printed over 40,000 circuits like the one on the right, and transferred them onto those garments. So that's been our big commercial success so far. Next slide, please. So in terms of the support that we've had, as a small company, we're 7 people, limited resources. Obviously, networking and so on is absolutely key in getting support, and we've had a lot of support, thankfully. So in the first one I'd like to highlight is, so we had an IP audit, and patents are, although we manufacture, we have a manufacturing side part of the business model. Actually, our main business model is to do with licensing of the technology. So patents are absolutely key, and we've got a portfolio that's building out there. So we had an IP audit done, and that's really helpful just to give us the big picture on the IP side, not just the patents, but potentially trademarks, and web domains and so on, other IP. The second area was related to really an introduction as part of putting together a smart Innovate UK smart application, and actually that particular one didn't go ahead in the end, but the introduction still generated a really useful output. So formed a link with the Advanced Wellbeing Research Centre at Sheffield Hallam, and they internally got some funding to do some market research in the area of sport. So they've got fantastic connections with the big sporting brands and small ones as well. So that's already starting to yield some fruit, which is fantastic. Then the third area was putting together a smart application, which did get submitted back in January. So so we're kind of all sort of like this. So we're due to hear at the end of this month whether it was worth all the work. But one of the introductions that was made was with Medipex, who basically, we'd never come across them, but they're health innovation hub, and so they're part of the team, part of the project team for that application to do the market research part of that project. Okay, next slide, please. So as well as what you might call simple circuits, we've also developed a printed heater technology, which is showing getting a lot of interest in the automotive space. So putting printed heaters, so we can put the printed heaters in the coating of a car seat, which makes it much more efficient and faster to heat up. So these heaters, your seat heaters in the future, will heat up in just a few seconds. You're not going to be sitting there for a couple of minutes, and that has an impact actually on battery life in the winter. So there's a heating technology, and then the third technology is, you can see there on the left hand side, it's actually a Hi-Vis Jacket with some LEDs in. And those LEDs are surface mounted LEDs, so they're same LEDs that you have in PCBs, electronics. So with CPI, again, partnering, big for us, CPI, Centre for Process Innovation, and part of the UK's High Value Manufacturing Catapult, government funded, and so they've got huge expertise around assembly and actually printing and other areas as well. So we partnered with them on the assembly part. So again, we print the circuits at our factory and we send them up to CPI, and then they pick and place those components onto the circuit, and then very carefully we heat press those circuits, and that's how we did that one there, the Hi-Vis Jacket. But where the really big opportunity I think lies is probably, I mean, automotive will be pretty big, but I think really digital health is going to be the really big one, I believe. So what we're going to do here, so we're going to take our printing technology together with the surface mount assembly technology, and then we're going to be able to do all the biomarker type sensors that you see in the list in the middle of the screen there. So heart rate and so on, all those biomarkers we're going to be able to, going to make on this project with the Innovate project. We're going to make prototype circuits, and then those circuits are going to be incorporated into smart garments, and also smart bedding, smart insoles, and that's just going to generate a potential to generate a huge amount of rich information. And we will, the initial plan to use that is for the project is actually for clinical trials. So clinical trials currently, prior to COVID, certainly were done, you go off to a trial center and have lots of measurements and so on. So the idea is with this project is actually we move clinical trials into people's homes, which is much more convenient. They don't have to travel in multiple times, and they can fit it into their busy lifestyles. And so there's the sensor aspect to it, and then the reason why I've got a picture of Tim Berners-Lee on the right hand side, founder of the web, is all to do with the data, because in the end, where's the value of this stuff? Well, really it's in the data and the analysis, working out what's going on. And at the moment, data, as you probably know, ends up in big companies' warehouses and server farms. So Tim Berners-Lee is saying, let's flip this, let's give us as individuals the control over our data. So that's basically, we'd have what he calls data pods, where we keep our own data, and that would include medical data, clinical trial data, social media data, everything. And then you've got us as individuals have control over that data. So that's the idea with the project, is we look at doing that. I'm going to stop.
Right, thank you very much, Mark. That's great. Okay, I mean, it's clear that conductor transfers are doing some very high-tech stuff, very cutting-edge technology there relating to sort of smart wearables and that kind of thing. So just to kind of summarise how we helped out, it was with an IP audit in terms of trying to understand what you've got and what you should be doing with it, or to protect it and exploit it in the future. It was with finding partners for projects that you're putting together to develop this technology that they're seeking grant funding. And it's about us helping to evaluate proposals and help you to shape your application and the partners within that to be a solid application for Innovate UK that's going to be, hopefully successful. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we did. And I know that Jenny Lawson's team actually worked with your colleague. Is it Paul? I think on the internationalization side. Yeah. And Jenny's got a few words to say about that, I think.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we've been working with Mark's colleague Paul. It's actually my colleague Katrina who's actually on leave this week, so I'm here kind of standing in for her to a degree. But we've been working with Paul and helping make some international connections as well that the company are looking at and exploring. So I know that Paul travelled to Finland a couple of years ago to take part in one of our matchmaking events that we organise as a project. We bring together companies, research organisations, others in essentially almost like speed dating sessions for companies, and he took part in one of those in Finland and made a connection with a Finnish company that is in the whole area of veterinary health and looking at kind of textiles in the veterinary health area. And then also I believe that we helped introduce you to a German company as well, who are also looking at kind of smart textiles and are very active in that field. So we've also been able to help introduce some international connections and potential partnerships for future projects and collaborations once things are further down the line. So yeah, we can use the power of our network, which is in over 67 countries worldwide, to help make those international connections as well.
Great, thank you very much, Jenny. Does anyone have any questions for either Mark or ourselves about this? No. Is there any in the chat? Let's have a quick look. Not yet. So you're a quiet bunch, but it's time yet. Okay, thanks so much, Mark. I'm conscious that you have to go and now pick up your daughter from school. So thanks very much. Thanks so much for that. Right, let's move onwards. So the second case study we have is from Elaros, and we have Professor Paul O'Brien. Paul, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Let me just give you a little bit of background. So my name's Paul O'Brien, the Chief Executive of Elaros, which is a health technology incubator and accelerator based in Sheffield. It was originally created with support from clinicians. And what makes us unusual, I think, as a private company is that we were established with 3 NHS organisations as shareholders, alongside angel investors that I brought in from Jersey. Just give you a little bit more background about the company, just so you get a sense of what we do and where we've come from. We've raised about £900,000 of private investment. But also importantly, we've raised nearly £500,000 worth of grants and through organisations like SBRI, Innovate UK, Creative England, and we're party to a very large European Union project at the moment, a Horizon 2020 project, that is linking us into scientists all over Europe and indeed the world. As a digital health technology company, we do a lot of work directly with universities. We're working currently with 12 UK universities, and we're also working with universities in Italy, Norway, Finland, the United States and Japan, as well as Australia. We will launch 4 products in 2021, which, given that we've been going for about 5, 6, 7 years, these will in fact be the first 4 products we launch. We're also launching 3 products in 2022, to be followed by 2 further products in 2023. Over the next few weeks, we will launch a long COVID clinical platform and patient app. And this has come completely left field. Came basically by me hearing a program on the BBC radio on a Sunday afternoon whilst cooking lunch. And I reached out to the clinician based in Leeds, and in 3 months we've been able to develop a platform which is incredible. Platform is amazing. It's using work that they've been doing for about a year, but potentially there are 400,000 COVID patients long COVID patients in the UK currently, and upwards of 10 million internationally. So we're very, very excited about this, but obviously this is another project that we're discussing with the Edge team at the moment. So in terms of what support we've had from Edge, I think it's important that we sort of list this really. So we've worked very closely with Simon and Jane, who were our advisors, and they've supported us in terms of the launch of our first product, which was launched in January. It's a soft launch of that product, CQI Toolkit, which is a system for managing the commissioning in health economies generally, and we're looking to sell that into the NHS in the UK initially. In terms of the support that we've had from Simon and Jane, I mean, I sort of categorize it really in terms of mentoring support and advice, but probably more importantly than both of those has been the constructive challenge that they have provided. You know, questioning and probing our thinking, which I think for any organisation that's on a roll is really important. That you have an external set of eyes that are questioning and probing and challenging in a constructive way, and we would definitely see the Edge advisors doing that brilliantly. What they've also done is then helped us around specific areas. So routes to market, we've done a lot of work with them around that and mapping that. Also around market segmentation, resourcing. Obviously, we've as a fairly agile team, we're having to scale up right now at the moment. And a lot of issues, obviously, around moving from a fairly ad hoc set of arrangements to structures around teams and all that brings. And then, obviously, with the launch of this very first product, helping us a lot around the marketing plan and again questioning and probing and pushing us really with that, which has been brilliant. In terms of how I'd characterise the sessions that we had with them, they were certainly focused, but were semi-structured. So to enable us to actually have a conversation with them and to kind of share with them what we were doing. But the sessions were always action orientated. So there were always things at the end of those sessions that we had with Jane and Simon for us to take away and work on and to come back to them on. And as I've said right at the beginning there, the process brought for us a safe external set of eyes to what was otherwise our own internal thinking. And I think it is so important. I can't stress this strongly enough, really. It's really important that companies do seek safe set of external eyes in terms of what they're thinking, just to help manage that process. This is my last slide. Just going to turn now to the more immediate areas of our plans over the next year. So as I say, we're in the process of launching this long COVID system in 2 weeks, but we've already had sort of sales interest from 10 organisations who want to purchase it in the UK. We're talking with the Department of International Trade at the moment around export opportunities with this, because clearly long COVID is a new condition, but it's a condition that's gripping the whole of the world at the moment. And there's a fantastic program going to be on television tonight on Channel 4 at 8 o'clock looking at long COVID. So it's really, it is the next pandemic once we've got over COVID. It's then dealing with patients who've got long COVID symptoms, some of whom will never recover, some of whom may take years to recover, all of whom will need huge amount of input and support from the NHS in a really complicated way. These are, after all, patients that weren't patients a year ago, and they have complicated needs, everything from fatigue, issues of fatigue, issues of mental health, issues of scarring of the lungs. There's a huge range of very, very difficult symptoms that they've now got. And ordinarily, the NHS would deal with these patients by referring them into a particular department, whether it be a respiratory department or onto mental health colleagues. But with this, these patients need to be very carefully triaged, and that's what our system will do. We're accessing export expertise, as I've said, through other colleagues that have introduced us through Innovate UK. And once we have traction with the long COVID project product over the next number of weeks, we will then turn our attention to the product that we launched back in January that we've effectively, it's a soft launch. We haven't aggressively gone out and pushed that because clearly there is a need for us to get this long COVID system up and running. We're looking to bring on additional colleagues over the coming months. I mentioned that earlier, and so obviously we're doing a lot of work around, I suppose, moving from fairly agile arrangements to actually building a team and all of the all of the excitements of doing that. But what comes with that is clearly a lot more formality than we've probably previously been used to as a company. And back in September, we secured investment from our investors, and that will underpin our growth plans. So we're not looking to need to go back for investment at any point soon. And our expectation is that through the revenue generation from this first product, that we will then be able to advance our fairly significant research and development pipeline over the next 3 years, so that almost means that we are then self-financing in terms of getting further products out to market. And this is our vision, which we established a couple of years back, but I believe this year is the year that potentially we start to see this realization of this vision for us as a company. So thank you very much, and thank you, Andy, and thank you, Jane and Simon, for all of your support over the last year.
Thanks very much, Paul. That's great. Yes, it's quite a journey you've been on and are still going on, really. It looks like you're really, really going places. Simon, Jane, any comment from you guys?
I mean, I think from my perspective, as you can imagine, we work with a broad range of businesses, big, small, experienced, inexperienced. And within the team, you have a range of experience as well. And I think our approach has got to be, we're not pretending to be experts in the health field, for instance, in this case. It's really just understanding the proposition. Does it make sense for us? Can we see any obvious holes in the plan? And can we help them move forward? It's very much focused on, rather than focusing on doing everything, we're picking 2 or 3 areas where we can add value. And we agree those with the business owner or the leader that we're talking to. And then we work on that basis for several months. And it was very good with Elaros, because Paul is very experienced. He's got an innovation background himself, but some of his team were less experienced. And so that was the focus, really. It was bringing everybody along, but at the same time, that some of them are further along than others. So it's very much a coaching and mentoring role. And we got an excellent response, and really delighted to see the progress they've made.
Great, thank you very much.
Just to add to that, I think the starting point is always very messy for a client. And I think it's that those external pair of eyes that do help to bring that sort of clarity, a bit more structure, and I think that's something that we did bring with Paul, and it was that recognition really that we were working with a business that does have a long life cycle into the market. So going from the being an R&D project based type organization to a commercial business was a big moment around a realization, I think, for Elaros, and that readiness to get to the market and learn from the first product to market into the rest was the part of the strategy, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Any questions from the floor?
I have a question.
Emma?
So last year we worked with Innovate UK Edge to go to Singapore, and we just been awarded with Innovate UK grant. But I feel like I need some more support. How can we get your advice and help us to polish or application grants, or I don't know, value proposition, get ready for investors?
Yeah, we can help with both of those things. I'll suggest maybe you contact, my email address will be at the end of this presentation, but if you contact us, we can have a chat about that. I think, there's two issues there potentially. One is, we can help with shaping proposals, and we can review a proposal which you've written, but we could also help you to sort of polish up your approach to private investment. So developing a pitch deck and your value proposition and those kind of things that investors want to see. Those are definitely things that we have skills within our team to help with. We have more than 30 advisors, specialists in innovation and growth, who all have a variety of different sector backgrounds, but a variety of different innovation specialisms as well, who definitely can help that. So yeah, please drop me a line.
So also for the Innovate UK grant, we need to present a project exploitation plan, and I finished this. I wonder if you could help have a look on this and see if it's fine.
Yes, we can. Yes, definitely.
I will send it for you then.
Yeah.
Today.
Please do. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that. Okay. Right. So thanks very much, Paul. Excellent. Let's move on. So we have our third case study is Anthony Dixon from Anota. Anthony, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon all. I hope you're keeping well. Just a bit of background about my business. So we were formed way back in 2011, celebrating our 10th year this year, which is quite some accolade for us anyway. And that really started from a team of 2 people and is now a team of 12. So we've got offices in Hull. That's really where the majority of the operation is based. We're based at the Hull University, and we have a Leeds office as well, where I'm currently working out of at the moment. So 2 years ago, I suppose our interesting journey really started. So I bought my business partner out, and I really needed to get a gaze into where the business was going to go and try and put my footprint on it more. And you'll hear a little bit about that as I move further out. In terms of what we do as a business, we focus primarily in digital transformation. So we enable businesses to become more agile. So in essence, we're taking paper out of process and trying to digitize that as much as possible. So automation and document management solutions. But the real sweet point of all that is actually integrating it into existing applications that businesses use. So be it ERP systems or their account packages. So in essence, a little summary of that would be posting an invoice all the way through into an ERP system that nobody's actually touched. So some quite funky technology. So 2 years ago, with my business partner leaving, we really just took a view a look at the business and really wanted to travel in a different direction. So we looked at, can we further enhance what we do and develop a range of in-house software applications that we can basically further drive time savings through automation, and we built that around DocuWare. So we're a DocuWare partner for document management. That's a cloud piece of software, global bit of software, and we have built complementary products that wrap around DocuWare but enhance its functionality. And that, as I said, an example of that would be interrogating an invoice down to a line level, validating that against data held in the ERP system, and if everything matches, we post it straight into the ERP system without anybody doing anything. And when you're processing lots and lots of invoices, that is a task that takes a lot of time and is prone to error, and all the usual things you find in an accounts department. So I just wanted to list some of the clients that we've picked up across those years. So some of them local, some of them national. So Eddie Stobart, we've looked after them for about 8 years now. So all their PODs and all their invoices are all processed through DocuWare. I think that they're processing about 10,500 PODs a day through our digital automation software. So some big chunky numbers in there. Locally, we've got Northern Rail, who are operating out of York and Leeds, Tunstall Healthcare in Doncaster Way. Sinclair Pharma is a really nice pharmaceutical business that we've picked up recently, and JSR Farms in Driffield. So that's just a sample of the clients that we've picked up along the way. Next slide, please. And click again. Here we go. So really, that was a summary of the challenge. We were looking to do things differently. We were looking for areas of growth within the business and just trying to, how can I say this? It wasn't a shambolic business, but we just weren't doing the things in the right way. So the change in the senior leadership team allowed us to just take a different view on what that business looked like. And Innovate UK Edge just came to us at the perfect moment. It was just an unbelievable meeting at a very poignant time for us. So we were wanting to change. We were looking for different areas of growth. And we had quite a lot of challenges in the business, but we wanted to streamline the way we do things in our business and look for better opportunities and better ways of delivering those opportunities. So we were working with Jane and Glyn, and we started work with them in January 2020. Wow. And what a year that's been. Absolutely amazing. So I think the first point that we started at was really at the senior leadership team. So there was a meeting of, actually it was a face-to-face meeting in this case, where we looked at the senior leadership team, and it was really look at our strengths, look at our weaknesses, and really drawing out what the vision is within the business, where we wanted to go, and then refining out the values along the way. Next clip, please. And it was really looking at the strategy for the business. So there's a great tool called Audit, and I think that was a real enlightening piece of work that we did with them. So for those of you who don't know, it's like a spider's web that goes out from the center, which is your dot, all the way out. And it starts to really look at where you're going, look at the financials, look at the objectives, products, market share. There's all different strands that are going out on this spider's web. And it allowed us to start to look at, okay, so what are our revenue aspirations? How big is this business going to grow? What do we need to add to it to actually allow for that growth? What do we need to do differently? And that was a great place to start, but we really created an environment where we analysed ourselves, and we got into some black box thinking. That was quite a mad thing. So everybody well, not everybody, but we traditionally had looked at things that we did well and tried to refine them. But actually, we span that on its head completely, and we went, right, what have we done that can vastly need improvement? What was our failures? And started to refine those out. And that was also a very enlightening piece. And it led to doing things like 360 reviews with our clients. So we built up a whole process about how we took information and feedback from them, be it good, be it bad, but it also allowed us to feed back into them about how their project had run as well from their side. So it was a real open environment that we learned a heck of a lot. And we're just on this journey as a business of continuous improvement, so trying to do it better, refresh it all the way through. Huge one for us was senior leadership transition. So a recognition from me that actually I, as a managing director, needed to do things differently. So actually all the answers were sat within my team that I've been striving for, were actually sat within the business. And it took a real shake of my head to realise that we can do things differently. And actually we've got the team sat here ready to do it. So it was almost like a release from me to the senior leadership team to go, okay, well, I trust you implicitly. Let's allow you to get on and do your job. So there've been some quite, real pivotal moments through this process. And Glyn, he got slated before this meeting started because somebody said he was eating bacon butties or something, but he likes his bacon butties. But that was what we had on the first meeting, and it really set the tone for all of us just collaborating around the table, having a bacon butty, having a coffee, and it really warmed us up through the process. So yeah, sorry that one's appeared in there, Glyn. Next click, please. So what did our journey look like? So in essence, what all the activities that we undertook drove out a strategic plan. So I now have in front of me an 8-year strategic plan. It was a 10-year plan, but I was already 2 years into it. So we built out a 10-year plan, what that looks like, what do we need to do? What is our growth capacity? Can we deliver it? Where do we need to bring extra people in? What does our intellectual property look like? Because we went through an IP audit process. I think it was Paul or maybe the gentleman at the start that they went through an IP thing. So we did exactly the same. Coaching of the senior leadership team and specifically me. So I've done some one-to-one sessions with Jane, which were absolutely amazing. We were literally just sitting, having a Teams call and looking at my journey and how I'm interacting with the senior leadership team. What were the threats? What were the strengths? What were the, we went all the way through that. So that to me was absolutely massive because Jane was supporting me on that journey of letting go, in essence, within my senior leadership team. And I think one of the big ones, so we ran this program for 12 months, and there would be, let's say every 3 weeks, there was an action that we had to prepare for the next meeting, and it made you accountable. There was no way that the senior leadership team would turn up to that meeting unprepared or have not completed what they needed to do. So they held us accountable, but they actually made us believe. Honestly, this program's been absolutely phenomenal for me. And what have we got? We've got a strategy for scaling. We're looking at, taking this into the EU, South Africa, Australia. There's lots of different things through the strategic partnerships that we've found and formed with ERP vendors that we actually have a model that we can replicate, and we can literally find the next ERP system that we're going to integrate with and just go and do it. So it is a replicable model all the way through. And we have definitely created a culture for innovation. So I've got 3 developers in my team now, and we are just building out the next funky stuff. And I'll absolutely love it. Next click, please. So hopefully, fingers crossed, in fact, we've got a meeting in 2 weeks. The next level for us is to go through the scale-up program, which we've been working on. And I have to say, Jane and Glyn have supported me on that journey as well in terms of, guiding me down the next route. But the next program that we're looking to do is the scale-up program. I've also joined a peer group with the whole chamber. And in terms of where I have, what I've become from 12 months, it's a completely different managing director, completely different. And I have to say, allowing my senior leadership team to do what they want to be doing in a constructive way has freed up time, so I can actually spend more time on the strategy within the business. which is having huge effects, absolutely huge. One-to-one coaching I mentioned with Jane, and literally Jane or Glyn, I can pick the phone up and go, what do you think about this? And we've built such a strong relationship through this process. And building out value proposition tools as well. And honestly, it's been amazing. Next slide, please. So our future vision. So one of the things that we've actually built out is the Innovate way. So that is now a thing within our business that we have formulated, we've delivered back down into the team. So we have a complete way that we do things in Innovate. I won't bore you to death with that one, but it is a thing. We've become a lot more agile, but we've become agile whilst having all our focus on the plan, on the overall plan. So rather than deviating away from that plan too much, everything is based around that plan. We're looking at the partner channel creation for Europe and US models. We've actually closed 2 deals in the States in the last couple of months as well. So it's already happening. And continue to innovate our Virto Suite product lineup. One of the things that we've really pulled out from the Innovate way is and I think this is really important, be committed to each other as we are to our client partners. So sometimes everything is focused on the client and about the delivery, but we need to be committed to ourselves as a team of people to believe and follow that through internally as well. I'm really working towards that mission. I put those words in big bold letters because it is a mission. We're on it. And in terms of where we're going, we're looking to scale up to a 10 million turnover business by 2028 and eat a lot more bacon sarnies because they really are productive. So that's me. Thank you very much. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Anthony. That's great. So just to kind of sum up, it was about that initial vision piece which set the scene, and then it was about us facilitating conversations, workshops, and really structuring the kind of leadership piece as well to help you move forward. And it sounds like you've made great progress.
Honestly, I'm not just saying this because we're sat on an Innovate UK Edge thing. It has been the most amazing thing I've ever done. So thank you very much, team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments from Jane, Glyn?
Well, I think from my perspective, Anthony, thanks for the glowing endorsements there, and thank you for pointing out that maybe I've eaten 1 or 2 too many bacon sandwiches in my time. But I mean, what I'm interested to understand, Anthony, is bearing in mind your business must have been bombarded by business support offers down the years. What was it that made you choose to engage with when we reached out to you?
You know, I've reflected back on this, and I think you were just there at the right time. And yes, there are other people who offer, you know, business support. It was just the way, from the first phone call right the way through to this is what we're going to do for you. It made me feel completely comfortable and confident that what I was going to do. So I understood that I would have to invest time into this, and it was not something I wanted to do twice over. It was, you know, I'm going to pick a firm that I'm going to work with. I have to say, it being fully funded was a big tick in the box at that time. So, you know, I'm going to chuck that one out on the table. But it was just the way from top to bottom that every conversation made me feel these guys know what they're talking about. Sorry, these guys and girls know what they're talking about. Just everything from the website to a phone call to the way it was followed up to the process. This is what we're going to be doing. And the material, I wasn't wrong, because the material all the way through has been absolutely fantastic. So it must have just been, it was a perfect meeting in terms of timeline for me. That's the biggest one.
Yes, thanks, Anthony.
Jane, any comment?
Yeah, Anthony, I really want to thank you. That was a very glowing picture that you painted there. So Glyn and I are chuffed to bits with that, and you know, we've enjoyed working with both you and the other directors in the team. I think that it has been a journey that we've sort of been a couple of steps ahead, but almost, you know, amazed by the level of effort that you guys have put in terms of your commitment and really pushing yourselves. So I think that you know, the glowing accolades need to be back on an OTA, because you were the raw material that was almost there. So I think that's really important, that a client realizes where they're at, and we can stretch as far as possible. What you've been able to do is shift towards even now coming to scale up, which is a rapid journey. I just wanted to ask really, what if you could choose a single light bulb moment in the journey that we've done, what would that be?
Interesting. Right. Okay. So it was in line when we were doing, it was around the Orbit. So when we put the Orbit, the spider's web thing I referred to earlier, when we did the Orbit, we started mapping out what the revenue growth looked like. And I know there's a lot more to it than that, but we were going, right, okay, so we want to be here, then go to here, then go to here. And we then, and I think it was Glyn actually, he just said, so what is your maximum bandwidth with what you've currently got? And that was both from a sales perspective, and it was also from a delivery perspective in terms of implementation. And at that point in time, I agree, and he should be buying the next sandwiches. At that time, I was really the only person selling within the business. Now, it was such a bold thing to say, well, unless you either shift in what you're doing and allow or bring more salespeople in, or however, you can only sell that amount of goods, and you can only deliver that amount of goods in terms of an implementation. And literally, it just knocked the wind out of everybody's sails around the table in terms of the senior leadership team. It was like, you're absolutely right. And we've obviously made all the changes known to man. I've actually pivoted round. It took us probably about a month to do, but another member of the senior leadership team he's moved up into the sales. So we've actually got 2 people selling now, and we then brought a project manager in to release him from what he was doing. So it was just the biggest thing. It was like, okay, well, that's a big number that we want to get to, but unless you actually change it down here, you've got no chance of delivering that. So there were plenty of light bulb moments all the way through, but for me, that's the biggest one, to actually go, well, you can't possibly do it because you haven't got the people to do that. So I would just go back to what you were saying earlier, Jane, that in terms of our helping with the process, you most definitely have got to want to do something. It's an investment of time, but it's probably the best investment. If you're at the right point in time and you want to make a shift, it's the best investment of time you can make. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And I think that what that does highlight is that this is about people as well, and it's about relationships, and that's what we're all about. We're about the bespoke support, but you know, developing a really productive working relationship with the clients we work with. Right, so let's move on. Thank you. Okay, finally, we've got Acoustic, Rick Parsons, and Glenn Wainwright has been working with Rick. Hi, Rick.
Thanks, Andy, and hello to everybody out there. My name's Rick. I'm one of 7 colleagues. We're based in Wetherby, and we deal with acoustic products, soundproofing, some people might call it. But if you've ever had a noise issue, think of us. I'll come back to that. We are going to go through a number of different points today. Introduction to Acoustic very quickly, product innovation. We're going to talk about the KTP that we're currently on with Innovate UK. And that's about creating products. We then have to deal with how we protect those products and those innovations. Specifically, I can comment on Acoustic's example, but it's
a complicated area legally, intellectual property. I'm not going to get into that today, but just share a few thoughts on it. I'm sure there's going to be some questions toward the end, but I do want to share some additional support that we've had. There's been plenty of comments today about it being people and custom, and I've never heard the word innovate so many times as I had today, with very just cause. So if you could go on to the next slide, please, Andy. So we're based in the UK. We are specialists in material supply for acoustic purposes in buildings. There's certain legislation that have to be in place for buildings. It can be on a wall, a floor, or a ceiling, as you can see in those drawings. And it's about reducing the amount of noise that passes through, or improving the quality of sound inside that space. You can see our catchphrase there, keep creating quieter spaces together, talks about our collaborative nature with our clients and customers, because in effect, every single one of our jobs is somewhat custom. We may use similar products and similar systems, but it's always bespoke to that particular building or that particular client. We've been going for 10 years. We started actually as a distributor where we were selling other companies' products. But very quickly, we got slightly frustrated with the lack of innovation in products. So we started creating our own in-house range. And it was that range then that we started marketing out to direct users, as we call them, or indirect suppliers. We use direct if you're benefiting from the product, and indirect is if we're selling to a third party who may sell the product on. So a builder or a contractor would be indirect. If you had a noisy neighbor next door to you and needed to fix a wall problem, you'd be a direct user. Next slide, please, Sandy. Has that gone back up one?
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. If you can see that little dishwasher tablet image there, that's something called the mute clip. And that was something that we designed in-house using that magical, ethereal quality of intuitive design, where great heads and great minds get together and think about what that technology should do. Unfortunately, as good a product as that particular one is, there is somewhat trial and error when you're developing a product like that. The red bit behaves slightly differently with some sound waves. The blue bit behaves slightly differently with sound waves, but the combination is you're breaking up the sound waves that would otherwise go through the wall or the ceiling. We call that dual impedance technology. That's a bit of a mouthful. But the thing is, we developed that. We went off and we tested it at the lab in Salford University. And that's where we first came across Innovate UK. Trevor Gregory is our contact with it. And we started talking about KTPs, which we'll come back onto. We had the product, we had it tested, but what were we going to do to protect it? The mute clip, okay, so we registered that design, that was really good, but we have to get a patent, and the patent is still pending. This is a long-term process, as anybody involved in it knows. It's not something you get in a couple of weeks. You have to make sure that it's absolutely unique, in our case, globally. So if somebody else in India or someone else in Brazil or somebody else in Russia has developed a similar product, that becomes a big debate. Now just imagine if that intuitive design I talked about earlier was supported by a robust mathematical testing model. Next slide, please. And this is where the Innovate KTP comes into place. Now, I'd never heard of a KTP. Thanks to Salford University for pointing us towards Innovate UK. But it actually gave rise, it took about 9 months to get the approval. There was a lot of work in the background, but we then have a 31-month project that's 2/3 funded by Innovate UK and the British government, I guess, ultimately. But what that's doing is helping us develop a robust process by which we can test the product and actually mathematically calculate what the performance of that product is before we ever make a sample. What that means is we're much more efficient, much more rapid, and therefore can be more innovative overall. Next slide, please. Now, intellectual property is a dry subject. There's no dressing it up. But you can work really hard. You can develop the world's best products. You can get the best processes in place, and then someone else can come along and copy it or do something very close to it. So my advice absolutely would be, it's a specialist subject, make sure you get professional help. Copyrights, trademarks, patents, trade secrets, we haven't got time to get into today, but they're the tip of the iceberg. There are so many legal elements to it. Without doubt, get professional help. Next slide, please. That professional help can help guide you. We're going to talk about the audit in a moment, which a few of the earlier presenters have talked about as well. It's so important because it can differentiate your business from your competitors. You can have the trademark symbol R or TM or patent, all that kind of protection will differentiate you from others. You can sell or license and create your own revenue stream by licensing USolve, the mute clip, or similar technology. And some of the earlier presenters have some fantastic products that you can just see sit really well and being licensed. It offers our customers something new and different. It's current innovation, it's innovation for tomorrow, and it keeps it exciting and enthusiastic when they keep coming back to us. It's an essential part of our marketing, our branding, and it makes everybody involved in that supply chain, including our suppliers, excited about what Acoustic are going to generate and do. But it's highly complex. So my best advice, learning firsthand, no surprise on the next slide, I'm sure. Start with an IP audit. Little story. I'm sure we've all been in the same kind of situation where you're at work, it's Thursday afternoon or it's Friday afternoon and you've still got a mountain to do. And then you get a phone call from somebody. Mine was from a guy called Glenn. And Glenn said, Rick, hi, my name's Glenn. I think I can probably help you. And I said, yeah, okay. I get those calls on a regular basis, but there was something about Glenn and his determination to stay in there, to hang in there. He said, it's free, Rick. You won't have to pay. And that's when I almost lost it and said, oh, come on, Glenn. No, you don't get a free lunch. But here's the example of where you do get that free lunch. Because what Glenn was able to put in place then with the IP audit, if you could go on to the next slide. It was funded where we paid £500 for a £3,000 service. So that's great value. I know it sounds like I'm a salesperson here, like one of the earlier speakers said, but I absolutely am. I was a proud person that didn't want to accept any money from anybody. And suddenly I've seen the light with not just the KTP and that backing and that funding, but then with RTC coming from a slightly different angle with the audit, the IP audit. And you know what? It really created a positive atmosphere in our business where we're thinking we're not just on our own here. We're actually innovating and being supported and encouraged and mentored and coached and whatever the other phrases are toward a much better business. So that has really paid us dividends. I'm not going to go through all the detail there, but you can kind of see the sequence that we went through. I can't remember whether that was my actual quote, unbelievable but true, but I had to give some feedback to RTC and I wasn't shy in giving some very glowing feedback for the support that we've received. So thank you and absolutely sincere. If we could have the next slide, please, Andy. So the IP summary, intellectual property protection is absolutely critical. Otherwise, you're not going to realize all that hard work that you've done. So if you haven't got that audit done yet, get it done. Without the protection of ideas and assets, you won't reap the full commercial benefit. Get that advice today. It sounds like an advert increasingly as we go through this, I know. Innovate UK have been such key supporters and enablers. And it's not just that, there were a couple other points as well. If we could have the next slide. So Trevor Gregory, we've covered Innovate UK. That grant was really significant to our business, helping us build a research and development pipeline of new products, a whole new innovation process. Glenn, who I've covered. Glenn, where were the bacon sandwiches, by the way? I definitely didn't see one. But maybe it was social distancing. But Glenn's resilience and drive, not just to do what he did when we let him in, but actually to keep coming at us, saying, Rick, have you done that IP audit yet? Rick, are you going to do this? Are we going to get the market research done? But in a very empathetic way to the challenges we had in a timing fashion. But there really was good introduction, signposting to local businesses throughout all of that. And we continue to do it. One off the top of my head was PAPI. I can't remember exactly what PAPI stands for, but we've been successful on that as well. We've been able to raise some funds for the capital investment of the testing rig that we need in place. So a source of knowledge, great network hub. Thank you very much indeed for that. Next slide, if you would, Andy. I'll probably talk very fast. I don't know if I've run over the 10 minutes, but I hope you get a measure of the enthusiasm at this end for the stuff that's been done with us. Any questions? My soundproof is really good. I can't hear a single question.
Thanks very much, Rick. That's great.
You're welcome.
Just to sum up then, I mean, you touched on a number of points there, but I suppose it's what you said was more about the sort of broader Innovate UK family support that we can offer. So we've got the IP audit, which we actually work with the Intellectual Property Office on that. And you also mentioned the KTPs, which is, yes, another Innovate UK program, which is fantastic, by the way. And I am kind of a product of the KTP system because I was a KTP associate quite a few years ago now. And it's an excellent program. And there's now a management KTP, which businesses should take note of as well.
We're actually just further to that point, we're applying for the MKTP as well.
Right.
Those two work absolutely perfect side by side, developing product research and development and then the management capability that's needed to be able to deal with that kind of growth and explosion. Yeah.
And you also touched on PAPI as well, which something we do is we help businesses to connect with the local landscape. So other support offerings that are out there, we all work in harmony with them because Innovate UK don't have the answers for everything, every single situation in terms of grant funding and support. So we try and dovetail with everything else that's out there, and we're well aware of what's available. So does anyone have any questions? Or Glenn, do you have any comment there?
Yeah, I mean, brilliant for this one because normally, we engage with companies who've got a bit of an understanding of what's out there that they can grab hold of and apply for, and grants for this, that, and the other. And as Rick alluded to, when we first had the chat, he was completely disbelieving of of things that were, available to him. And obviously that's where we dovetail nicely with all the grants, with all the competitions that you've been winning, people out there. And that's the technical side, as Rick's alluded to, with the KTP side, developing the product and all the technical specification work and testing. But then the management side is where we sort of stepped in, really. And it went from disbelieving to can't get enough. I mean, we had another action on the action plan, which was going to be the sales and marketing element of the business and the new products. But then when I spoke to him shortly into the session, he said, "Oh, I've got this MKTP on the go now. I'm applying for that." So I said, "Well, yeah, great. There's no point us then doing a sales and marketing workshop with you if that's going to be very much the focus of your MKTP. That would just be duplicating the effort." But we've said, look, you're in the application process for an MKTP. Obviously, if it didn't quite go the full distance, then just pick up the phone and we'll pick up the pieces and take over again on that score. So, Rick knows that, we're there to help him. And like he said, he's also done a short course with the DIT, Department of International Trade, in these last few weeks. I think that was like a 5-week course on online, selling, export selling or something.
That was really well timed, actually, dealing with Brexit, paperwork, all sorts of things. Shipping documentation, international marketing. That was a really useful set of sessions.
So you just can't get enough, basically, and it's now, you know, it's got this full rounded understanding of the support ecosystem that's out there. And again, you know, we're not averse to signposting companies to other things, you know, that's going to give you the whole package of support, not just what we can give you. So, you know, we want to do what's best for you guys.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
And thanks, Rick. That was great. Okay. I'm going to touch on a few. There's been a few questions in the chat, but I'm going to wrap those up in a minute with my summary. Just to really wrap everything up. First of all, thanks very much for the speakers' time today and presenting really well about what it is you've been working on with Innovate UK Edge. So hopefully some of you are asking yourselves the question: how do I get involved? Am I eligible? And what's the next step? Well, you know, I'm not going to go through everything in detail, but start on our website, innovateukedge.org. Everything is laid out there in some detail. It gives you a good idea of the kind of work we do, you know, how we help businesses to innovate and grow. And there's plenty to go out there. So, you know, it is about innovation management coaching. It is about helping you to enter new markets, a little bit about intellectual property, finding investors. It's all there. And maybe entering new markets could be, you know, how do you address, how do you get soft introductions to people in somewhere where you want to export new products or services. And there is plenty to go at. So in terms of how you contact us, we do have a national inquiries gateway. There's the number. Drop us an email and please engage with us. You know, we work with innovation-led high growth or potentially high growth businesses across the UK. So the offering is there, and if you're not sure about whether you're eligible or whether it's right for you, just have a conversation with us, and if it's not right for us, we'll point you in the direction of someone else. Okay, do we have any final questions before we call it a day? No? Okay. Well, once again, thanks to all the speakers and thanks for attending today, and enjoy your afternoon.